Welcome to Refinery Online. My name is Kenny Koger. I'm one of the pastors here, and we want to thank you guys for tuning in this week. Obviously, it's Super Bowl weekend, so I am sporting my Kurt Warner jersey, which he last wore in the Super Bowl in Tampa Bay. So go Cards, go whoever you're cheering for. Yeah! We put this service together so that you can get to know Jesus better. Every week we have Bible teaching, we have music, we have prayer, we have communion. And if you're new to this, it's awesome, it's okay. You are welcome wherever you're at in your faith journey. We would love for you to connect with us, ask for prayer, whatever we can do to help encourage you in your journey with Christ. And so, speaking of that, please stay tuned after the message for some quick announcements about next steps.
Before I spoke a word, you were singing over me. You have been so, so good to me. Before I took a breath, you breathed your life in me. You have been so, so kind to me. Oh, the overwhelming, never-ending, reckless love of God. Oh, it chases me down, fights till I am found, leaves the 99. I couldn't earn it, and I don't deserve it. Still, you give yourself away. Oh, God, oh. When I was your foe, still your love fought for me. You have been so, so good to me. Yes, you have, Lord. When I felt no worth, you paid it all for me. You have been so, so kind to me. Oh, the overwhelming, love of God. Oh, it chases me down, fights till I am found, leaves the 99. I couldn't earn it, and I don't deserve it. Still, you give yourself away. Oh, the overwhelming, never-ending, reckless love of God. This love for us. There's no shadow you won't light up, mountain you won't climb up, coming after me. There's no wall you won't kick down, lie you won't tear down, coming after me. There's no shadow you won't light up, mountain you won't climb up, coming after me. There's no wall you won't kick down, lie you won't tear down, coming after me. There's no shadow you won't light up, mountain you won't climb up, coming after me. Yeah. There's no wall you won't kick down, lie you won't tear down, coming chases me down, fights till I am found, leaves the 99. And I couldn't earn it, and I don't deserve it. Still you give yourself away. Holy, overwhelming, never-ending, reckless love of God. Oh, it chases us down. Refinery, will you pray with me? God, we thank you so much for the songs that we get to sing each and every week, the songs that reflect the truth of your word and who you are, a God that is relentless in his pursuit of us. And we thank you for that. It's in the name of Christ we pray. Amen. Refinery, each and every week we pause during our service times and we celebrate what Christ has done for us through communion. And so we gather no matter where we are, in our homes or watching online or on our phone with friends or family or maybe just by ourselves. And we pause and settle our hearts just for a moment. And I want to invite you right now to find some elements that we can each commemorate the body and blood of Jesus. That's what we do when we pause and we worship Christ through communion. And so in this time, I want to invite you, take something that represents the body of Jesus, perhaps a cup of juice or whatever you have laying around that you can celebrate and remember what Christ did for you and for me. It's not as much about the ingredients of what we partake in, but it's in the moment that Christ instructed us to celebrate and to observe each time that we meet together and each time that we focus on him. So it's in this time that I want to invite you to pause, settle your heart, and seek the Lord in this time as we celebrate and remember what Christ has done for you and for me. This is your time.
Well, hello, Refinery Online and free Refinery Anywhere. It's Super Bowl weekend, and so I've come dressed in my attire. As you can see, it's not one of the teams that's playing now, but it's one of my teams, the Chicago Bears. You can take the boy out of Chicago, but you can't take the Chicago out of the boy. And I take you back many years to 1985-86 when the Bears were in the Super Bowl. And they won with sweetness, Peyton, and then also they did what was called the Super Bowl Shuffle. They did a little video with all these big burly football players. Said, "We're not here to cause no trouble. We're just here to do the Super Bowl Shuffle." And they do like a number like this. And you see these 6'6", 300-pound guys dancing back and forth. It's quite cute. If you've never seen it, you need to check it out. Well, this weekend, the Super Bowl players are some phenomenal ones, a great veteran who's been there before, and an up-and-coming superstar who is leading Kansas City for another year in dramatic ways. We'll see what happens when the game plays. Well, we're going to continue with Nehemiah today. Nehemiah, as you know, was one of the shortest people in the Bible. He was Nehemiah, but he wasn't the shortest person in the Bible. Job's friend was Bildad the Shuhite. Well, enough of that nonsense. Let's get into what we're talking about today. The concept that we want to look at in regard to Nehemiah is how to succeed. When I was 15 years old, I went to Detroit, Michigan to visit my brother. He was a young doctor. He was 28 years old. I would spend a week with him there. He was working at 2 different hospitals, and one time I went, we spent the night at the hospital. He had a little room He put a bed up for me. He went to bed for a couple hours, got up during the night, and went out and took care of patients, came back again. And he found some free time to take me bowling one day. And we bowled the first couple of games. He actually beat me, not very badly, but enough that he had beat me. And we came to the third game, and it was pretty close. And he turned to me and said something that just kind of shocked me, surprised me. He said, "Joe, you know what your problem is? You don't know how to succeed. You're afraid to succeed." And I'd never heard that before. I'd heard of people being afraid to fail, but never afraid to succeed. Well, it made me angry, as a matter of fact. It made me so angry that the last 3 frames, I got strikes in each one of those frames, and I beat him by 1 pin. And I thought, okay, bucko, smoke that, will you? I never said that because I'm afraid he would have laid me out. But he just laughed after I beat him. I thought it was really showing him something. He was really teaching me something. But it still didn't come totally to mind and to light until I was a young pastor in Beloit, Wisconsin. And one day I'm in my office studying, I hear the organ. Those are back in the organ days, goes back a few years ago. And I hear the organ playing. I didn't know anyone was even in the church building. And I walk into the worship center, what we called the sanctuary then, and I saw our custodian, Al, playing the organ. Now, I called Al Uncle Al because at that time, Laugh-In was on TV. It was quite a comedy show, and there was a character whose name was Uncle Al the Kitty's Pal. And so I called him Uncle Al the Kitty's Pal, but on this occasion I said, "Uncle Al, I didn't know you played the organ." He said, "I don't tell anybody." I said, "Well, why not?" He says, "Because then they would expect me to do it." A few weeks later, I went to his house, had dinner with him, and all around his house there were paintings in his house that he had painted. Here was Uncle Al, who was an elderly man, as I viewed at the time. He was about 65, he was scruffy, he was very unassuming, but here he had a talent that wasn't orchestra level, it wasn't Mozart level, that sort of thing, but he was good at the organ, and he was good at artistry, but he didn't want anybody to know, because if people knew he could do it, they would expect him of it. He was afraid of success, of the responsibility that went with that. Well, today we want to look at someone who handled success and was not afraid of it and did not abuse it, used it in a good way, and I think we can learn some lessons from Nehemiah today. 5th chapter, verses 14 through 19. "Moreover, from the 20th year of King Artaxerxes, when I was appointed to be their governor in the land of Judah until his 32nd year, 12 years, neither I nor my brothers ate the food allotted to the governor. But the early governors, those preceding me, placed a heavy burden on the people and took 40 shekels of silver from them in addition to food and wine. Their assistants also lorded it over to the people. But out of reverence for God, I did not act like that. Instead, I devoted myself to the work on this wall. All my men were assembled there for the work. We did not acquire any land. Furthermore, 150 Jews and officials ate at my table, as well as those who came from us from the surrounding nations. Each day 1 ox, 6 choice sheep, and some poultry were prepared for me, and every 10 days an abundant supply of wine of all kinds. In spite of all this, I never demanded the food allotted to the governor because the demands were heavy on the people. Remember me with favor, O God, for I have done for these people." As we look at how Nehemiah succeeded, he was a successful person. His original job, as you remember, as we started in Nehemiah, is that he was a cupbearer for the king. This was a great job, as a matter of fact. It had great perks. He had the finest wine and the finest food that the country could afford, but it was also a job that had a lot of risk. Because you see, if someone wanted to assassinate the king, they might poison their wine or poison their food. And so this wine taster would be one who would taste it first to see if it had any poison in it. And if he keeled over, then the king wouldn't drink it. So on the one hand, he got the best that there was. On the other hand, he could have gotten the worst that there was. But he was willing to do this. He had a trusted relationship with the king. From there, as he approaches the king, he has another place of high position. He becomes a project manager of rebuilding the city of Jerusalem. No small task at all. And so he is viewed as one who has managerial and leadership capabilities to bring about that kind of task. And then in our text now, we read that he is the governor over Judah. So he is a man who is successful, he's organized, he's trusted, people believe in Nehemiah. But he does not see his success as something to be used selfishly. He does not see his success as being on easy street to do whatever he wants. Jesus tells a parable about a foolish farmer who has a bumper crop. In fact, it is larger than any crop that he has ever had. And so he says this, I'm going to build bigger barns, save this crop so that I have it for years to come, and sit back and eat, drink, and be merry. And that night God says, you fool, tonight your soul, your life will be required of you. And whose will be all that you have stored away at that point in time? Nehemiah didn't have that problem with success. He did not let the success go to his head. He did not sit back because of the success. He did not think that he had gotten on easy street, but rather he served in a way that would help people in their lives. Nehemiah was selfless. He was selfless in that he didn't use all of his budget. In fact, he didn't use any of this budget. He could have had all the food that he wanted, but it says he did not use any of that. He didn't use all of his budget. Now, I understand the concept of you don't use your budget, you lose your budget for next year, but this is a different kinds of circumstance. The walls of the city have been destroyed. They were burning when he arrives. The people's lives are devastated, and he has given a budget to do the work, but he doesn't use all that budget, particularly a part of the budget for himself. He doesn't overtax the people. He does not lay an extra burden upon them. Tax collectors in the time of Jesus were notorious. We're putting extra taxes on people. Oh, you owe 10 shekels? I'm going to charge him 12 shekels. What's he going to do with the other ones? He puts them in his pocket. And we end up with a very redemptive, wonderful story of Zacchaeus, who says, if I have defrauded anyone, if I have extorted anyone, I will give them 4 times back. Because tax collectors were known to get extra money from people so they could pocket it themselves. That's how kings got rich and tax collectors found prosperity. But we find the selflessness, the integrity of Nehemiah. He does not do this. He does not lord it over them. He does not say, I'm the governor, you do what I want, you do what I say, if you don't, you're out of here. But rather he serves those people. He had the opportunity to buy land because he would have been wealthier than the others, and he could have bought up land at very low prices if he chose to do that. Then he would have had the political power, and he would have had the economic power and really been in control. But that's not how Nehemiah viewed his success. He viewed his success and his leadership as a way to serve those who are in need. And that became his focus. The focus was to build the wall. Last week, Chad told us about Sanballat and Tobias. And they were trying to take Nehemiah down from that task of building the wall, from focusing. But time and again, Nehemiah said, I'm not coming down. This is too great of a work. I'm not going to come down and play your games with you. I am going to focus on the task before me, because I want to serve the city of Jerusalem and I want to serve the builders of that wall. When he recruited people, he had them look after their particular part of the wall so that their need for security, even if you will, their selfish needs would be taken care of. But as each one did that, that benefited the other ones. I can remember one time when I was playing football and I was a right guard, and I was supposed to let my person come through. The pulling guard was going to come and knock him over, and then I was going to go out to get a linebacker. And so I let my person through, he gets knocked over, I go out and there's no linebacker there. And as I'm looking for somebody to block, our fullback runs right by me and he goes for an 88-yard touchdown. Now, everybody did their job. I guess I did mine as well, but even though I didn't touch anybody. But each one, as we all did our job, and somebody apparently did the job of two people, took care of my person and their person, we all benefited. That's what Nehemiah was doing, having each person take care of their own need, but in the process of that, taking care of the needs of others. The one for all for one type of concept. So he saw his focus as serving people, not serving himself. He could have done that because of his position, because of his prestige, because of his power, but he chose instead to serve. His desire was to help those that were in need. And so Nehemiah benefited these people by not putting extra burden upon them, by taking their burden away. He did not tax them more, but he gave them more. He gave them security. He gave them comfort. He gave them encouragement. Ultimately, he gave them a renewed faith in God. They thought God had left them because the city of Jerusalem had been decimated. But now, because of Nehemiah's work, because of his leadership, because of his desire to serve others, those people were built up and found a renewed faith in God to help them into the future. How do you handle success? Well, what Nehemiah did is that he chose to use his position, his success, to serve others. And it seems to me there might be somebody else who is a little bit more famous than even Nehemiah, Jesus, who said this, probably, you might say, I would say, the most successful person who's ever lived. And his motto was this: I did not come to be served, but to serve, and to give my life as a ransom for many. How do you handle success? That's how you handle success.
Hey, thanks for tuning in today and watching. I hope you were encouraged and challenged in your faith. Our next Rooted Spring session starts February 28th. It's a Sunday night. Rooted is an amazing way to grow in your faith, to make some awesome relationships. It's a 10-week discipleship experience, and we'd love for you to be part of that. You can find out more on the website about that. So again, thanks for tuning in and have a great week. Go Cards!